WIDR Kalamazoo.
Hi, thanks for tuning into the Western News Review. My name's Kayla, and I'm here with our fellow hosts, Nicole and Daniel. And today we've got a couple stories to share with you, and we're really excited to tell you all about them.
Yeah, we are excited to tell you about them. So, how's your week been? I mean, I ran our listeners through the stories before we get into details. But first of all, how's everyone doing?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
I feel like my schedule at least has kind of been winding down this part of the semester. So
And mine's getting tougher. I don't know why.
I'm with
but-
you there. Mine's also getting worse. So,
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Today,
but we're rooting for you, Nicole.
Yeah, good for you, because
Glad to hear one of us is happy right now.
yeah, I'm so jealous right now. I'm not even getting enough sleep. Yesterday,
Oh.
yeah, I overslept yesterday because I slept around 3 a.m. if I'm not mistaken.
Oh.
Yeah,
That's pretty late.
that's my average these days. All right, so yes, we're back, like Kayla said, to give you stories that you might want to take note of from the Western Herald. And the first story, we have a story about President Montgomery addressing the state of the university, where he had something to say about student enrollment. We'll bring you that. And also, there's a new vice chair of the Board of Trustees, and Kayla will give you that story. And of course, last week there was it last week or last 2 weeks? There was the International Students Festival, which I missed, by the way, but I saw social media posts about, and it looked like it was fun. We'll tell you some of the takeaways from that event. And the last story we'll bring to you will be about a raging issue here on campus about the president's salary. I remember that in our previous episode, we brought you a story about that when the salary was first raised. But some group on campus have been speaking about it. Nicole will tell you what they have been saying, not necessarily what we have been saying, but just bring to you the facts of what these people have been saying. So looks like an interesting lineup for today. Right, okay, let's get into it then. We'll start first of all with the president's address about enrollment, and then Nicole will give us a story.
Yeah, so last week, President Montgomery gave the State of the University, where he just spoke about how the university is doing, successes, goals that he has for the university in the future. And one of the big topics talked about was both student enrollment and retention.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys remember, a couple years back, there was a lot about Western struggling to keep student enrollment up. And Western wasn't unique in that. A lot of Michigan universities have been struggling. But Western has seen a lot of growth and increase in student enrollment and student retention. And we've been setting some records in numbers or size, like class sizes coming in, and the number of students staying from year to year.
Yeah, awesome. And you're right. So you I have heard that. I mean, I haven't been here that long, but I have heard stories about, enrollments, especially within the Michigan state. And so I can appreciate that story. Would you tell us what the statistics have been so far in terms of the enrollment? What do the numbers say?
Yeah, so Michigan has the second highest rate of decline in high school students graduating, and only 53% of graduating high school students are attending college.
Oh.
And that's projected to continue dropping. But in the past year, WMU has increased their new student enrollment by 2%. And I believe the student retention rates have increased increased 3.3% in the past year. And Montgomery has a goal to raise that from 80% to 84% in the next 4 years. And, he mentioned, considering that was raised 3% in just the past year, that seems like a very possible goal.
Wow.
Yeah.
I like how you say it seems very possible. We'll delve into, what the future looks like. But you two are from Michigan, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I am not, fortunately, so I don't get to speak on this issue. I don't get to answer that. But would you share your thoughts about what you think could be accounting for this low enrollment? What factors you think could be the reasons? I mean, it doesn't have to be, but what do you think could be accounting for it?
I think going to college after high school has been kind of the expected path for many years now. And I think in the past few years, people have been kind of deciding that college isn't for everybody, which I agree with personally. And they're
You sound like you want to drop out of college.
no, I didn't say that. I think people are, fewer people are going to college just to go to college, I think, and they are pursuing paths that don't necessarily need college beforehand. And yeah.
Okay, so I mean, if I understand you. So from that point, you're talking about in terms of there are alternatives to going to college, and some people have figured that out. And I mean, if I want to be, for instance, and there's been conversations about whether or not to even go to the traditional college setting where you do a 4-year on campus where you can take courses online in a skill that you want to acquire. For instance, you want to learn how to do data analytics or IT or something like that. Some people would prefer to take courses online and not have to go through the hassle we are facing currently, with academic work and all the stress of, like for a 4-year system. Kayla, would you agree?
I think that it's, especially considering the price of college these days, and especially considering, how many people go to college, it's really difficult, I've heard, to find jobs post-graduation. And so I do think that there are a lot of people considering, trades and alternative paths in life. And I think that that's really great too, because we kind of had like a lull in people who were choosing those paths. And so it's really great to see, I think, that even though, yes, enrollment is down, that's not necessarily, to me, a bad thing, but I can understand why it would be bad for the university.
Yeah, I think college has been talked about in a probably pretty good light for a long time. And more recently, I think people are coming out with more criticisms of just the system and how it works. And so they're kind of seeking alternative, like the trades, and just like different paths that maybe don't require college.
Yeah, you're right. Not every career path requires a college, degree. And to the point about the cost of education itself, especially here in the States, I think it might be one of the deciding factors for why people decide not to go to college, for instance. Because if you have all these students' debts, student loans, piling up for you, you might as well find an alternative route. But is it all that bad? I'm talking about, attending college. I mean, 53% enrollment, it's not impressive if you ask me. That's like half of the population deciding not to continue college education. Shouldn't we be promoting more, shouldn't we be promoting that people join the university and stuff like that?
I don't think every career needs college, and if I'm being honest, my personal opinion is not every career that people go to college for necessarily needs college.
I agree with that.
And I mean, to be fair, some of the people go to college for even degrees that they don't work with. Like they find, for instance, someone might study communication and find themselves working in a completely different sector. So I guess that's a point you can make as well.
I think it's also important too to note that the careers that don't require college degrees aren't any less valuable. In some ways, some of them can be more valuable simply because they are kind of going back to pandemic terminology. They are, what's the term I'm looking for?
Frontline workers?
Not frontline workers.
I don't know. Essential?
Essential workers. Thank you.
Oh, that's the same thing.
They are essential workers in that which society could like not literally function without them. Like if you take like plumbing is like an obvious one. Like I would not survive without a plumber. Like I am a baby when it comes to
Fixing
anything.
stuff.
Yeah, when it comes to like fixing anything in my apartment. So.
Yeah, and they don't need a college degree to be able to do that job.
Exactly. So I think it's really those types of jobs are really valuable, and I think that was forgotten for a long time. And so I'm although it is in some ways disappointing to see college enrollment down, I think it's also important to note that like that does not mean that other jobs are any less valuable.
And in Ghana, where I come from, the government has started, paying attention to technical skills, as opposed to, the regular college degrees and all that. So there's been a lot of investment in, technical schools, which are not themselves necessarily universities, even though these days they've been converting some of them to universities and all that. But the idea is that there are alternatives to blue collar jobs. And so you might want to, is it blue collar or white collar?
Blue collar.
Oh, okay. It didn't sound right. Okay, so you can invest in other areas as well. And like we've been sharing our opinions so far. So it's not like we are saying necessarily that college is not important, but we're telling you the factors that could be accounting for why some people have decided to choose a different path altogether. But lastly on this topic, Nicole, I think you mentioned it briefly, but if you can repeat what President Montgomery has said about his vision for the future or what he intends to do.
Yeah, so one of the goals that he talked about is he wants to increase the student retention rate from 80% that it is currently to 84% by the 2027-28 school year, which will be 1% each year. Yeah, and again, he said that just in the past year alone, that percentage has gone up 3.3%. So I think that's a very possible goal.
Yeah, hopefully, and we wish him all the best in terms of reaching this goal. Hopefully we can add some more numbers to what we currently have. Okay, so that's the topic, the discussion on student enrollment and retention, as brought to you by a statement from the president of Western Michigan University. We turn attention, not entirely from Western Michigan University, but away from the student enrollment and talk about the Board of Trustees. We understand there's some news coming from their end. Kayla will give us that.
Yeah, so Trustee Alan Turfey was voted unanimously on September 28th to be the new vice chair of Western Michigan University's Board of Trustees. So he'll be carrying out those duties through December of 2028.
What do we know about him? What background does he come from?
Yeah, so he began his career at GM as a financial analyst, eventually became president of the GM Trade Exchange and co-CEO of a company called Covacent. He is additionally the former chairman, president, and CEO of J.M. Smith Corporation. He serves on a lot of boards, and he's been on the Board of Trustees here at Western Michigan University since 2020.
Oh, okay. Quite a lot of experience that he brings to the table. So, new vice chair. Now, we hear the BOT, the Board of Trustees, we hear about them a lot. And maybe not everyone knows what it is that they are. So, away from, we might know who the president is, and maybe know that he is in charge of the institution to some extent, but who are the Board of Trustees? What role do they play? Yeah,
so they are a board that is appointed, by the governor of Michigan, who is currently Gretchen Whitmer, and then also previous governors. And they serve, I believe it's 8-year terms.
I'm not.
Don't quote me on that. Yeah. But they are the lawmaking body of the university. They come up with the budget. They decide on a lot of different matters that involve, like buying or selling, or like pieces of land on campus, or what needs to be built, what needs to be fixed, all of that kind of stuff. So they are kind of like the overarching legislative body of the university.
Okay. So if you're looking at this in terms of the general, the country, we're looking at them as maybe as Congress, maybe.
Yeah, kind of. I would say so.
And this new vice chair will be the speaker? I don't know.
I don't know. I should probably know, but I don't know.
But yeah, I mean, I get to the point you're making. So essentially, they vote on issues. Obviously, the president cannot take arbitrary decisions, especially sensitive ones, on his own, and he needs like a group of people that assist him in doing that, and that is what the board of trustees does. Something I'm learning right now is what you just said about the fact that they are appointed by the governor of Michigan. So that's some good information to note. All right, we'll talk next about the just ended event, the International Festival, or International Students Festival, if you want, where some culture, fashion, and whatnot were displayed here at Western. Kayla would give us that story again, right? And tell us who were some of the ISOs present, what the event was all about.
Yeah, so this story was written by Sarah Shanley and Clara Buchart, and they kind of just covered what was going on at the event. There were booths from the Indian Student Association, Korea Club, Japan Club, Malaysian Student Association, International Student Council, Indonesian Student Association, Saudi Student Association, and the Bangladesh Student Association, as well as the Fulbright Student Association. So a lot of different RSOs. I probably did not need to list all of them, but I didn't want to leave anyone out.
Yeah.
So they all participated in creating booths which had games, snacks, clothing, history, and achievements made by their home countries.
And I hear some of them were making certain statements in terms of talking about their RSOs or their countries. Can you give us some of the statements that came from some of the students?
Yeah. So looking for the statements. One student talked about India and how it's known for a moon mission. Another student discussed the Malaysia students that hold potlucks and kind of some of the food that they have. I'm looking for more. The council president of the ISC, the International Student Council, discussed the well-being of international students and trying to implement a community for them.
And then on that note, in terms of what the well-being of international students or trying to create a community for them, maybe your thoughts on what the significance of celebrations of like this nature are. Why should we be having these kind of festivities?
Yeah, I think that especially coming to college is scary, but I can't even imagine. I mean, I'm sure you can speak to it. Coming to college from a different country would probably be
tough.
even scarier. Yeah. So you're very brave. So I think that it's important just to remind these students that they're not alone and that yes, they might be, one of 10 students coming from a country, but within those 10 students, there's a community there, but also there's a community that the rest of Western can share with them. And so I think that statement as to how to build a community is really, really important.
Yeah. And I mean, you can talk about the fact that some of these people do not, some people might not even be aware of the fact that there's, a group of students that come from their country, and passing by these events will let you know, oh, so there's these many, for instance, Africans here at Western. Then I'm not really all alone, like you said as well. And I think it's also an opportunity to showcase your culture. So you are in a society where you're learning the American culture as well, but you also take the opportunity to let them know this is where I'm coming from. This is how, this is the kind of cuisines we have, and the attires and whatnot. I love the social media posts, the dressing and all that. And it looks like always the Indians are winning.
Yeah, I think this article says that this was their 4th consecutive year winning the first place in the
Dear Africans, if you're listening, next year, let's do better. I mean, I love what they do.
For you. You've got
root
this.
for me. Yeah. Next year, I am representing myself.
I was gonna say you should go.
I think they win with the dance. The Indians.
Yeah,
they are really good dancers. Africans are good too, but all the Indian stuff going on. Anyways, congratulations to The Indians, I think there are some people, they were not the only ones that won. Maybe you might continue that one and tell us who won what.
Yeah, it was followed by the Bangladesh Student Association and Japan Club, second and third place respectively. And then the Korean Club won the first for top booth.
Oh, congratulations to them as well. My roommate is from Korea, so at least I won something. All right.
By association.
By association.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so that's it about the Just Ended International Festival. It happens each year. I think there's also another one in the. I think it's each semester, because in the spring of the Just Ended academic year, there was one such event as well. So
I hope so. I'm kind of like reading this, really jealous I didn't go. So
me too.
It sounds like a really good time.
Yeah, it's really fun. The last one I went to, I didn't go to this one, but the last one I went to was really fun to see all the things that the people from all over the world were doing. All right, let's come back to, I mean, we're still at Western anyways, but let's go to the president again. We did a story about him earlier on. We'll end on his note. So over the last couple of weeks, there's been some, conversations and controversies about his salary. And like I said earlier on, we brought you that story some time ago on this podcast. But there's been some developments, and Nicole will give us that story.
Yeah, so a little over a month ago on September 28th, the Board of Trustees announced that they would be giving President Montgomery a raise. It was a 3% raise from about $496,000 to now $511,000, as well as a nearly $25,000 bonus for the next 2 years. So the total would be nearly $50,000. And at that same meeting, the some members of the Professional Instructors Organization, or the PIO, were present and spoke about just the discrepancy in their salaries, and they've been very vocal about this new raise. They've put up signs around campus, and yeah, they've been in negotiations since July, but those negotiations haven't been going very far.
Okay, so what we know is that there's a salary raise, and what do you call them? Professional Instructors Organization, maybe. PIO opposing that. What steps, again, if you can repeat, have they taken to express their grievances?
Yeah, so they started negotiations in July, I believe it was July 11th. 10th? Okay, I'm actually pulling up.
I might actually be wrong.
It is 10th, yeah. Yeah, it is 10th.
Okay.
Yeah, well, so they started negotiations in July, and they asked for $2,300 per credit hour. They currently make $1,050 per credit hour, and a $500 bonus per semester. And Western came back saying that they could offer a $42 increase to $1,092 per credit hour and no bonus.
I'm just trying to get this, broken down as much as we can, since it has to deal with numbers. So, first of all, they are demanding. They currently make $1,050.
Yes.
Per credit hour, and they were demanding $2,300, which is like double that and even more.
That was their first offer. When I spoke to Jasmine Labine, a communications part-time instructor, she told me that they didn't expect that they were gonna get that, and clearly they didn't.
About 42, so they got an increase of $42.
Yep, Western
away from what they were demanding from.
42 more than what they currently make. So it was $1,092.
Interesting. All right. What have been their response to the university stance so far regarding the raise, or maybe the president's salary?
Yeah, so like I said, one thing that I think a lot of students have seen is they've put up posters saying things like, the president makes more in 2 weeks than your instructor makes in a year. Western pays its instructors poverty wages. McDonald's pays more than the university does. And then, yeah, with the negotiations, they went basically, I think it was like a month and a half or so without hearing from the university, really without like giving a counteroffer, until the university called for mediation. So they've seems to kind of be at like a stalemate where not much is happening.
Isn't looking good. I'm talking about in terms of the university. I know the strategic communications director had something to say about that, about how they were unaware of the posters and stuff like that.
Yeah, so when I wrote this story, I spoke to the chair of the Board of Trustees, Shelley Edgerton, as well as the, let me make sure I get this right, the Vice President for Strategic Communications, Paula Davis, and they both said that they couldn't comment on the negotiations with the PIO because they are not at the table. Like they're not at the table, so they don't experience or witness what happens with those negotiations. I asked them who I could talk to that might be a little more knowledgeable in the situation, and they said that's up to the labor management team. And but if you're at the table negotiating, you can't really speak to the media because it's a conflict of interest. The PIO has someone that is not at the table that deals with the media. So I asked if there's anybody like that with the university, and when I reached out to labor relations, they directed me back to Paula Davis. So I was just kind of sent in a circle right back to people.
I mean, in a sensitive issues like this, people do not want to say anything that people would hold them, to. And so, I mean, it happens. It's just politics, I guess, in terms of that. So what we know is that the PIO is agitating over the president's raise, which hasn't seen, an equal raise to them as an organization. So they've been demanding for a raise for a while now. I'm just trying to break down the story. I mean, like trying to reconstruct it, if I understand what's happening right now. And to them, the recent increase or raise in the president's salary is more like an eyesore for they having been demanding for a raise, and no one seems to be caring about that. And we've seen only a little increment in that. And currently, like you said, there's negotiations still ongoing. Kayla, have you seen some of the posters?
I have seen the posters, yeah.
What do you make of them?
I mean, they're I don't know how to phrase this, but they are the wording that they use is very strong. It makes for a strong argument.
Okay. We'll see how this turn out. We don't want to, like Nicole said, this is still something under negotiation, and even people who have access to information are, trying to be sneaky about, responding to certain questions. So obviously we can't say much about it. We'll still keep an eye on that and see how this turns out, if the negotiations are going to go in favor of the PIO or not, or they can meet in the middle somewhere where each one is satisfied, and hopefully the posters disappear. But that's a rundown of stories that
I think many of the posters have started to disappear, but there are still some around.
Yeah, I have seen, I think, one in the hallway of is it Brown?
Brown Hall?
Yeah, Brown, where I take classes. So they are there, some are disappearing. We'll see how the events unfold. Interesting conversations we've had. We've spoken about the president's address about student enrollment. We've also listened to the election, heard what's been going on with the election of the vice chair of the board of trustees. The international students held a festival to showcase their culture, fashion, and achievements. And we just ended on the note of the president's salary and what some professional groups on campus have been saying about that. That will be the end of this episode. But before I go, what are your plans for the weekend?
Homework.
That's sad.
Yeah.
Come on.
I know. I wish it was something more fun, but unfortunately, I don't think I have the time to do anything other than homework.
Yeah, homework. I'm doing homework too, but I hope to complete it today so I can use the weekend to rest.
Nice.
Yeah. Nicole, anything? Work?
Yeah, about the same. Cleaning. I'm actually going to Jackson tonight.
Ooh.
What's Jackson? Is it Michigan?
Yeah, it's
I thought Florida.
about,
Okay.
No, not Florida. It's about halfway between here and Detroit.
Oh, okay. You have family there?
No, my fiance lives in Detroit, so we're meeting halfway.
Oh, that's cute. That's a cute story. Can't wait to get married. Anyways. All right, it's always amazing to have you here. Shout outs to, I know last week some of you were trying to give shout outs that you forgot. See, you forgot again.
Oh my goodness.
Shout out to Eli. We miss you, man.
Yeah, Eli. I saw Eli in class yesterday, so I don't miss you. I'm sorry.
share that with him.
I miss you on the show. All
Shout
right.
out to our photographers.
Yeah.
I feel like our photos have been really,
They've been really good lately.
really good. Yeah.
Yeah. So shout out to Aiden and Zach and all of the
Yeah.
staff or staff photographers.
Yeah.
I really love the photos too. Like, it's how they correspond with the stories that it's really cool.
Sometimes I give them really difficult prompts, like, can you go take a picture of the weather or misinformation? And they do it. So
They find a
Whoa.
way.
props to them.
All right, kudos to you, and shout out to you, Corey, awesome man. Who else? Ryan, amazing stuff. Ryan,
Let's
always
go.
making sure that we are good technically, putting together the production so that our microphones are working. Shout outs to you for the amazing work you're doing, and of course to the video team at WIDR, Lucy, for putting our content on YouTube and all social media platforms so that our listeners can listen to it, even aside what goes on air. Lucy Grip, thank you so much for the work that you've been doing. All right, until same time next week, thank you so much for making a date with us on the Western News Review. My name is Daniel Ebo, and today I've been here with
Kayla Lambert.
Nicole Morehouse.
All right, adios. Bye-bye.